Follow the Money Investor Group is a 100% Indigenous-owned company and certified with the Canadian Council for Aboriginal Business.
Okay, Mark,
Right.
we're going to go for a morning drive. It's
Look forward to it.
Yeah. So you live in a really nice neighborhood of Toronto.
Yeah, we think so. We like it. It's changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How long you been here for?
Changing. Wow, long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, best part of 30 years, to be honest.
Okay, so you're
I was here when none of this looked like this. All this was all bungalow style housing.
yeah, knock them down.
Bit of a, I wouldn't say it was a sleeper neighborhood, but it was waiting to be rediscovered.
Yeah. Okay.
This part south of Blythewood.
How many kids you got?
3 kids. Yeah.
3 kids, and
Yeah.
they all went to Blythewood?
They all went to Blythewood School right up the road, and then different other schools, and then they all, believe it or not, ended up over at St Andrews University in Scotland.
No way.
Yeah, and now they're all living in the UK.
Okay, I'm going to ask you questions about that, but just back to Blythewood. That is, I
Yeah.
believe that's the number 1 or number 2 school in, if it's not Canada, it's the GTA for sure.
Oh, I hadn't heard that. I mean, it's a very good. It's a very good school. It's always been known as a pretty good public school. It's been there. I recall when my kids were going through there, it was the 75th anniversary or something like that. So yeah, no, it's got a long storied history, and
Yeah. So how old are the kids now?
they're all in their 20s.
And they're all in Scotland.
No, they've all been and done uni. 2 of them have master's degrees. And
Yeah.
all 3 of them are working, and yeah, getting along well.
Okay. And like yourself, where were you born? Where were you raised?
I was actually originally born here in Toronto, not far from here, up north of the 401, near Baby Village.
Okay.
Um,
Is that where the Rush guys are from?
I don't know. I don't know. I think it used to be. I mean, the district was called Willowdale. That area up in there. And
Yeah.
yeah. And so, I went to local school up there. I left Canada when I was 10. My family moved around and what have you. I ended up living over in England, amongst other places.
Okay.
Yeah. Went to school in the U.S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, did you play any sports growing up?
Yeah. I played all kinds of sports.
Yeah.
Mostly a lot of racket sports and things like that.
Yeah. Are you still a part of that community now? You do?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Just to stay
Dial the
active.
band down a little bit on that, but I still play some squash. You move on to doubles, and then you move on to the trajectory of racket players. They then move on to pickleball.
Yeah. Pickleball's a big thing now.
Oh yeah, where they
Yeah.
start dominating because they have racket skills usually.
Yeah. Yeah, there's different probably divisions of that too. But it's great because every age can play it.
Yeah, it's an interesting game. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. It's very social.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's good.
No, it's been a good. I'm surprised at how fast it's taken off.
Yeah. When did that come out actually?
Pickleball?
Yeah.
It's got to be certainly within the last 10 years,
10 years?
but it really taken off in the last 5. But I mean, I've been around long enough, played enough different racket sports that I remember when racquetball was a phenomenon and all that kind of thing, and then that kind of had a huge spike, and then it kind of dropped off because I think it wasn't as interesting for a lot of the racket players compared to something like squash or tennis.
I was going to ask you, how do we get to Bridle Path?
Where do you want to go? Just go up here to Post Road.
And then make a right?
Yeah, you'll make a right.
Maybe we'll do a flyby at
Sure.
Drake's
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, you probably think you're coming for him in this car.
Yeah, especially with Jonathan in the
Yeah.
back there. It's
So-
like, no filming. So what do you do to decompress from work? Because you're obviously a pretty busy guy. You've got a lot going on with different projects. in a very exciting space. But you as an individual, what do you do to decompress?
Oh, we play a lot of sports and like golf and travel, and
Yeah.
I try and spend as much time with the family as I can and the kids. And it's I got to spend a little more time now just getting to where they are to spend time with them. But you want to make that investment, and yeah, no, it's pretty good. I mean, the space we're in right now is super active. It was less active for a long period of time. You want to get this right-hand lane here. So typically, in these junior things, one market will be working and one's not. So I've always tended to have 2 or 3 things on the fly at the same time, typically.
Yeah.
Because your uranium was in the penalty box for a long, long time there.
Very long time. Yeah. Lots of consolidation.
Yeah, I just think it took a long time to recover from the Fukushima demand shock, and
Yeah.
Kazakhstan came out of nowhere and started overproducing. It just took a long time to get the market back into balance.
Well, let's talk about the uranium market, because you've been following it and been putting together projects and for a long time. So you're a great person to speak to about the uranium market. If you can guide us towards Drake's house, that would be cool.
I mean, I'm not sure which these houses. To me, they all. I mean, we're in McMansion territory here. So,
Yeah, McMansions.
I'm not sure which one of these McMansions that he's living in, but
All right, we'll take a cruise.
try. You got 3 choices here to turn right.
Okay.
It's on one of those streets. Let's take the middle one. I don't know. Maybe that's his street.
Middle one. Okay.
Yeah.
Is that Bridle Path? The middle one?
I think Bridle Path might be the furthest one.
Okay. Yeah, I think it is actually the Bridle Path, but anyway. Okay, so 3 Mile Island news out in the last 10 days. How do you think that's going to affect the uranium market? Why do you think that happened, and what's your take there?
Oh, I think it was a sort of a bolt out of the blue in terms of a headline. If you told those of us that have been in the space a long time that, in the depths of the bear market, that you're going to see a headline where one of the, most highly regarded tech companies is going to make an announcement that they're going to plug directly into 3 Mile Island to get power.
Yeah.
Because they can't get power anywhere else at scale.
Yeah.
I would have said you're on something. But that's the headline we just had.
Yeah.
And it speaks to the demand that's out there. That's really a new factor, this extra demand. That's really a factor that's becoming obvious in the last 2 or 3 years, that between all the electrification going on now and this AI, that we actually going to have growth in power.
Yeah.
And you really just they're behind schedule. Like in Ontario here, we have lots of power demand for population growth reasons and other things, but now you've layered on some other demand, and the governments really haven't accounted for that in a way that it's unfolding now. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's a pretty big announcement. I mean, nuclear plants take a long time to obviously get off the ground.
Yeah.
I think in the long run, it's put nuclear firmly back in the equation as far as the way we're going to have to get baseload power going forward.
That's right.
And I think the other thing it does that's very interesting, because it's been a slow build to get acceptance of nuclear widespread after you have one of these industrial accidents, and I think that's the last remaining piece of resistance that can fall away when it's the tech companies, and those folks are all pretty highly regarded, the people that run all the tech companies, and across the board, starting with Musk and the Microsoft folks and Google, and when they tell you we got to do this, and by the way, like, what's the issue with the safety and everything else, and they start approaching it from a more rational debate prospect scientifically, I think a lot of the traditional resistance is going to just disappear finally, and that has been a factor, right, in lots of jurisdictions in terms of getting new plants off the ground. I mean, the other thing with nuclear is it takes a lot of money to build a nuclear plant. You got to be committed, because it's a lot of money and it takes a lot of time to come out of the ground, so you don't do it lightly.
Well, I don't know what other way where you can get scalable baseload power. It seems like, a lot of my research has brought me to, sorry, I can't go through puddle. I just washed the car. But yeah, I mean, how do you get scalable baseload power outside of uranium?
You kind of got to be blessed. The world really wants to get off coal, and I think that's right for lots of reasons. And if you have hydro, you're fortunate enough to have hydro, you've probably taken advantage of it. So we're in Canada, Quebec, obviously. takes advantage of it to the fullest extent. But they get a little ideological about it too. I mean, just because they happen to have it doesn't make them a authority on what everybody else should be doing about baseload power and everything.
Yeah.
Because they're sort of, we don't need nuclear, and then they sort of, that debate kind of crosses lines. But the reality is that the countries that have good sources of hydro typically utilize it to the fullest extent.
That's right. Have you looked into, like, deep into the crust of the Earth geothermal solutions?
I haven't personally. The little bit I've learned about it says that's a very interesting technology potentially, and I think that's one of the things that, if they can get the drilling technology to where they can get, I think you got to get down to 40,000 feet or something like that.
Yeah, they can't.
Yeah, if you can do that, but no, that's fantastic. If they can do that, then I think, and all these improvements happen over time, then I think that will be a big contributor potentially going forward, and that's as pretty much as green as you can be as well, right? So
yeah, that would be decent for planet Earth here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we're gonna make a right on Park Lane and see if Drake lives on Park Lane.
I don't think he's coming out to meet us somehow.
No, I don't think so. No, that would be kind of cool though. Anyways, back to the interview. What do you think would be the most interesting part of the market right now? When it comes to uranium, like you got 3 Mile Island, that's the most recent news. But what's the key that investors need to understand overall for the bullish uranium thesis?
Well, I sort of, when I talk to accounts and institutions and groups of retail people, I think my one big takeaway from uranium as a commodity on the macro level is that the demand profile for that, which is very healthy now for a whole lot of reasons, including this extra power demand and the imbalance that developed. It's not GDP correlated in the near term. So for you're trying to put it in a stock portfolio, or you're trying to commit to owning commodities, people typically want to rent those things. They don't want to own them.
Yeah.
And
because of the cycle.
Well, because it's cyclical and it goes up and down. You've had experiences with some of these things that look fantastic, like lithium, and then people tend to pile in at the wrong time, and then they get a bad taste in their mouth and they don't come back. But I think the reality is that demand for uranium is not GDP correlated in the short run or the medium term, mainly because when you've committed to build a plant, and you've got a $5 to $10 billion investment, and you got to fuel it for the next 60 or 80 years, that demand is baked in, and you can't put anything else in the plant. So once you get this cycle started, it's going to tend to be a pretty healthy thing for quite a long period of time. And the supply side of it, it's really companies like ours that are going to have to feed this demand out, let's say for the 2030s and beyond. And you can count the projects on two hands, really. I mean, you're going to need to not only get all the known things into production, you're going to have to start doing some more serious greenfield and finding some more things.
Yeah.
It was one of the reasons we did this deal a couple weeks ago. We announced that we went into Kazakhstan, which I think surprised a lot of people. But it's sort of one of the obvious things that were there to be done once they said, hey, we're open for business and we want to find more resource, and you can do go in there and do a greenfield exploration deal like you can do in a lot of countries. They just sort of hadn't done it because they'd had such a big legacy endowment of resource. But they've because of the way they've been producing for the last decade or more, like they've ripped through a lot of the initial resource that they started with.
Mm-hmm. So have you been to Kazakhstan?
I haven't been yet. I'm going. My colleague's been there twice.
That's Drake's house. Right there. I'm pretty sure. It says the embassy, so.
Yeah, he's got a high wall. Nice.
All right, Drake. Nice seeing your property. Have you been to Kazakhstan?
I haven't been yet. I'm going. We just did the deal. The deal hasn't actually closed yet. It's very close to being closed. We're waiting for the final grant of a couple of the concessions.
Yeah.
We ended up indirectly through this other company that we have the right to buy. They've taken a huge amount of real estate, probably too much, and we'll have to winnow it down over time. But you start with as much as you can, and you quickly sort of you get to the drill. I call it drill to kill. That's the nature of this. You want to get over there and find the prospects you think are the best, and get to drilling those quickly. And that it works particularly well for the style of mineralization they have there, because it's all this ISR, this in situ recovery, and it's all on these roll front type structures, and it's typically a big drilling exercise to find deposits and then develop deposits. So we'll be doing that over the next couple of years. We hope to be, we'll close the year of this deal hopefully in a couple of weeks. We're doing our initial recon work about how to explore the exploration, starting with as much as we can learn about the existing data that is there, etc.
Yeah.
And then we hope to be in an initial drilling phase by late next year. Sort of third or fourth quarter next year would be ideal. And then we'll start. We'll ideally go in there and find a big deposit of some kind. I mean, you're over there elephant hunting. You're not going there for small things.
Right.
So they're probably what they would think of as their smallest deposit. And Kazatomprom, I think, has 19 joint ventures with different entities.
Yeah.
I think there's 19 separate mines. I think their smallest one would be like our biggest one in the U.S., the Church Rock that we have, but it would be like by far and away bigger than the biggest U.S. ISR producer. That's just the scale of the geology you got to work with there, right? It's very attractive. So
yeah,
it's an interesting opportunity.
So I'm going to bring it back now to some of your personal views. If this gentleman lets me in, yes, he is. What do you think of our country, Canada? What are your thoughts? You've been here a long time, and we just went through, in my lifetime, one of the most polarizing times. Where are your thoughts with Canada?
Oh, I mean, it's a great country. I think they let it get away from them a little bit with this whole immigration exercise that they did, which for whatever reason they did it for, whether it was to get low-cost labor or what have you. I mean, we've always been pro-immigration in this country, but you just can't. I mean, a city like Toronto, you just can't, because the reality is, when people come to Canada, they don't spread out over 50 states like they might in the U.S. They come to 2 or 3 cities.
Yeah, they don't go to the Maritimes.
Well, there's just a lot of pressure on everything right away. I mean, schools and housing and the medical system and even power. I don't think we talked about power earlier. I mean, most countries don't have, 20 countries don't have 3% population growth. And if you have that population growth, you're going to have electricity growth. And they probably weren't planning for it, and they'll have to quickly adjust for it, right? So because typically economic growth is incredibly tightly correlated with electricity growth.
Yeah. I'd like to see those two charts together.
Yeah, it's almost like a linear. It's almost like a 1-to-1 correlation. So it's obviously it means I think they're on it now. I think everyone's kind of recognized that. But I mean, we're fortunate to live in a country like Canada. It's a fantastic country.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. What have been some of your biggest successes in your career, like even just investing? What have been your, yeah?
Well, we've had some companies that got acquired. We had a big, 15 or so years ago, we had a big silver play that was quite interesting, controversial at the time. Got bought by Pan American Silver. It was the biggest known silver resource in the world at the time. It probably still is. It's still frustratingly hasn't been developed, just because lots of places you go now, it's tough. I mean, one of the reasons we based Laramide, the core of it was in tier 1 type jurisdictions where you think you can produce and you think you're gonna have, the rules are pretty clear. They may be protracted to get permits in that thing, but at the end of the day, you'll get the permits.
Yeah.
And you'll be able to operate, and there's a rule of law system that if you have disputes, that will resolve the disputes. And that's important in nuclear, particularly because the utilities that are really your customers,
yeah,
they really want to understand that you're actually going to deliver what they've contracted for, and vice versa on the producer side. If you have a take-or-pay contract, there have been these instances in the business where the utilities tried to say, well, they're not going to do the take-or-pay, and you got to be able to take them to court. And I think this has happened with, say, Cameco.
Yeah.
And the court says, yeah, you're sorry, you overpaid, but
too bad.
It's a rule of law place.
That's right.
So yeah, I think it's important from that standpoint.
Now, when that company was taken over, did you get shares in was it Pan America?
Yeah, we got shares.
It was just an all-share transaction?
No, we got shares, and I think we must have been one of the first people that got a warrant.
Oh.
We got a 5-year warrant. I should have asked for a 20-year warrant in retrospect.
Yeah.
Had I known how hard it would be to get permits.
Were you able to exercise them, or?
I think they might have barely come into the money at one point with silver. I mean, silver went to $50, I think, at one point.
That was
not too long after the deal happened.
Oh, okay.
Got it. So I think that that obviously caused that stock to do well. It was a great company. I mean, that's the kind of, if you do an M&A transaction, that's sort of the thing you want to do. If you've got development assets, you want to put them in the hands of people that you think are going to be able to
move it forward,
most effectively move it forward.
Yeah.
Probably have existing production, probably have a balance sheet, etc. We're fortunate that our projects, we're not like these Saskatchewan projects that need $1 billion, $2 billion to get off the ground.
Yeah.
The ISR one is very modest capex, and $50 million US was what the PEA said, and the one in Australia is probably on the order of 350 or 400 million. The last numbers we did are a bit out of date now, and they were around 300 US. So there'll be inflation and what have you, but the uranium price is much higher now. The thinking on the uranium price now, and this, I was just at the global conference a month or so ago where all the utilities are, the whole industry comes together.
Where was that
conference? In London.
London.
It's called WNA. It's a World Nuclear Association conference. You had a lot of capital markets players there as well, because there's obviously interest happening in the space. And the consensus seemed to be there's a bit of a tug of war going on in the real market, which is the term market. That's where the utilities want to strike deals for 3, 5, 10 years around this $80 level. And I think they begrudgingly got themselves mentally, the utilities, up from 50 to 80, where they'll do some contracts.
Yeah.
But they haven't sort of said, now we're always going to have to pay 80. But I think there's that mindset will develop that 80 will become probably like a floor. Maybe the floor will be even higher. But the price isn't high enough yet to spur on enough exploration and other things, to be honest.
That's where I was going next, is where do you think the spot price has to be adjusted for inflation? Do you think it needs to be over $100?
Yeah, spot's more of an outlet for the actual users of the market, because the market exists to do real things, like the oil market. It doesn't. The secondary stuff that goes on with speculators, especially in the uranium market, like that whole thing didn't develop as much until the last cycle, and then with the development of the Sprott vehicle where they're actually sequestering pounds and things.
You like that product?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great idea if people want to just play the commodity. But again, it's effectively playing the spot price.
The spot price, yeah.
But the spot, as far as the industry uses it, is more of an outlet for things when people get stuck and they miss time to purchase, or they got a shortfall in production or something like that. The real market's the term market, and for the first time in a long time, those two markets are really aligned.
Right.
The spot raced ahead of the term market.
Yeah. And
then it's now basically the term market's caught up, and we're at $80. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's pretty interesting. But I do think the market, the capital markets look at the spot market, and you need that spot. The one thing that the Sprott vehicle has done is, because it's focused on the spot market, when the spot market runs, people tend to get enthusiastic.
Yeah.
The flows start happening. There's ETF product in the uranium space in the way that there isn't as much as there is in the gold space with companies of similar market caps and what have you. So that has been a big beneficiary to creating a real thematic around nuclear, because you've got this thematic product you can buy that really is quite nicely correlated with what's happening in the industry itself.
When they announced that split, did you buy any shares in it?
The spot?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been in a spot. I think I own some now. Yeah.
See, okay.
Well, I think I bought it when the price. The price went to 107 spot or something, and then it pulled back quite far, and the spot's back at 80 now, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's been a very good product, and it's been a very good product to educate the marketplace, because the street and the retail investors and people, they need an easy way to play. You kind of need, before you get down drilling into individual companies like ours, you got to have something where there's kind of some training wheels on for the investor.
That's very well said, actually. Yeah, very well said.
Not the professional investors so much, but for retail, and they got to get comfortable, and they have a good experience. I mean, the ETF products are really quite a good product.
Yeah. Do you like gold?
Yeah. No, I've been impressed. We've been involved in lots of projects. I mentioned one that
Yeah, the silver
But I've been
one.
involved in lots of precious metal deals over the year. Always been a bit of a gold bug.
Okay.
Bit of a gold bug. It's
I like gold too.
Yeah, I mean, if you think, governments are irresponsible spenders, it's kind of a no-brainer investment.
Yeah, I just bought some gold actually from cash I had sitting in the vault. Like there's no point, during COVID I was using that cash to do certain things, which it's not, that opportunity is not there anymore. So I thought rather than just sitting there and, being diluted, I'll pick up some gold.
For sure. No,
And
it's a good time. I mean, it seems like a stealth bull market to me, and none of the equities care that the gold price is almost $2,700.
I know it's very odd. Why do you think that is? That's a good topic of conversation.
I think it's a capital markets structural thing where I think there's only so much capital that's chasing around these names, and I think you don't have the ETF products at the lower end of the market that drive it as much.
Yeah.
I think the gold companies too probably were a bit like the oil companies before they got disciplined and started showing people that they really can make a lot of money and give a lot of it back to shareholders. And I think I think you'll see them start to do that. I think you'll have the usual trickle down.
Yeah.
At some point. And people chase momentum, and it doesn't really have any momentum yet.
It's weird.
Yeah, I think it will. I think it'll develop momentum, and I think you could buy it all day long right now. A lot of these names,
like GDXJ.
Well, I think you could buy lots of mid tiers. I mean, the bottom end of the food chain is just still, effectively no bid.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're on the way back to your place here.
Yeah.
How would you like to?
Pleasant drive.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Beautiful neighborhood. One of my favorites in Toronto.
Yeah. Thank you.
How do you want to leave it today, Mark? Like we're going to go in post-production when we come up with a webinar date that I'm sure will be in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
Sure.
So I'll do that. Now, here, let me ask you this question. We'll end it here. Where's your favorite place, favorite conference, favorite country, wherever, to network with, to promote your story?
Well, it's funny you asked that because I'm actually going to Asia and Australia in a week, next Tuesday, and I'll be there for most of the month. We're taking a bunch of folks up to the property for a site visit.
Okay.
And I think that Australian market, in terms of the way the capital markets still work there and their knowledge of the resource business and the way they actually play the names, you've got a more sophisticated institutional market. They come down market. Yeah, we're that little street over there.
Yeah.
I think it's a really interesting place still because it's the depth of capital's better there. And if you look at what happened in the lithium business, while everyone else was talking about lithium, they actually got a couple of gigantic lithium mines off the ground.
Okay.
And it was supported by their bigger institutions, by their pension money.
Yeah.
And I think we don't really have that in Canada, and certainly don't have it in the United States because that's not what drives American capital markets, resource companies, and what have you. And so, I think and they're very knowledgeable. And I think we've also got this project there that is really going to start to shine. And we're actively drilling there. We got two rigs going. We're hitting uranium all over the place. So I think it's I'm excited for this trip coming up.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to get more in depth into the projects and everything about the company, the capital market, the structure. That'll be a webinar that you do with Ashley. Stay tuned for that. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Thanks for the drive.
Absolutely.
Yeah.